Post-medieval English. In the earliest days of the colonies, English settlers in New England built homes with steeply pitched roofs, small windows, and central chimneys to withstand brutal winters. Timber frames, wattle, and daub were the materials on hand, resulting in rustic dwellings focused on basic survival rather than decorative flourishes. Very few remain today, but historic pockets in Massachusetts and Connecticut preserve these relics of America's first domestic architecture. Dutch Colonial. Dutch settlers in New York and New Jersey introduced gambrel roofs, which added useful attic space and effectively shed rain and snow. Thick brick or stone walls and exposed beams defined these sturdy houses. Though first constructed in the 1600s, Dutch Colonial saw a revival in the early 1900s. Its signature barn-like rooflines spread throughout the Northeast and Midwest, where they are still a familiar sight. Spanish Colonial. In places like Florida, Texas, California, and the Southwest, Spanish settlers adapted Old World traditions to hot, arid climates. Thick adobe or stucco walls helped insulate against heat, while small windows reduced direct sun. Red tile roofs and central courtyards reflected Mediterranean and Moorish influences, offering shade and airflow. The legacy of these mission-inspired buildings is particularly visible in California's architecture today. French Colonial. French settlers in Louisiana and along the Mississippi River contended with swampy terrain and frequent flooding, so they built on raised foundations or piers. Wraparound porches, hipped roofs, and tall French doors allowed for cool breezes in humid weather. Surviving examples in New Orleans showcase the style's European charm, combined with practical solutions for a subtropical climate. Georgian. Named for the reigns of King George I through III, Georgian design prioritized symmetry, proportion, and a sense of formality. Brick facades, paneled doors capped by transom windows, and decorative crown moldings lent these homes an air of refinement. Popular among wealthy colonists, Georgian later influenced the Colonial Revival movement, cementing its place as a touchstone in American architectural history. Federal. An evolution of Georgian, the Federal style took on a lighter, more delicate aspect. Elliptical fanlights above doors, slender columns, and decorative swags or urns reflected ancient Roman and Greek ideals. Seen in port cities like Boston and Philadelphia, and in the new capital, Washington, D.C., Federal signaled America's cultural ambitions and its confidence in a budding national identity. Greek Revival. Motivated by admiration for classical democracy, Americans widely embraced Greek Revival. Front facades resembled ancient temples, complete with large columns, triangular pediments, and bold entablatures. Symmetry and simplicity projected civic virtue and strength. The style spread across the nation, shaping southern plantation homes, Midwestern government buildings, and everything in between. Gothic Revival. In a shift from classical models, Gothic Revival reached back to medieval Europe for inspiration. Steep gables, pointed arches, and ornate wooden trim created a dramatic fairy tale look. Decorative elements like finials and stained glass windows enhanced the romantic atmosphere. Particularly popular in the Northeast and Midwest, Gothic Revival offered a spirited contrast to the neoclassical architecture that preceded it. Italianate. Inspired by country villas of Italy, Italianate dwellings featured tall, narrow windows, often arched, topped by decorative crowns. Overhanging eaves supported by large brackets and the occasional rooftop cupola underscored the style's rustic elegance. Growing American cities like Cincinnati and Chicago embraced Italianate for its combination of sophistication and adaptability, helping it become one of the most common 19th century styles. Stick style. A transitional Victorian-era mode, stick style emphasized the home's wooden framework by applying vertical, horizontal, or diagonal boards onto exterior walls for decoration. Gabled roofs, overhanging eaves, and exposed trusses further accented the structure beneath the surface. Though less ornate than later Victorian designs, Stick style helped pave the way for the more exuberant Shingle and Queen Anne movements. Second Empire. Recognized by its mansard roof, an idea borrowed from France's Second Empire, this style freed up additional living space in the attic. Facades were elaborately decorated with iron cresting, dormer windows, and ornate brackets. Popular in urban centers like New Orleans and New York, Second Empire lent a distinctly Parisian sophistication to the American streetscape. Shingle style. Mostly found along the coastal Northeast, Shingle style offered a more subdued Victorian look, wrapping homes in continuous wood shingles that smoothed out corners and seams. These sprawling, often asymmetrical residences favored open floor plans, porches, and an informal relationship with the landscape. The emphasis on flowing exterior surfaces created an organic, beachy vibe that contrasted with the fussier ornamentation of the period. Queen Anne. Epitomizing Victorian opulence, Queen Anne went all in on asymmetry, with turrets, towers, and wide porches dominating the facade. Decorative spindles, fish-scale shingles, and stained glass windows enhanced the visual complexity. Bold paint schemes highlighted each architectural flourish. San Francisco's Painted Ladies stand as iconic reminders of the Queen Anne passion for maximal detail and flair. Mission Revival. Rooted in nostalgia for California's Spanish missions, Mission Revival adopted stucco walls, red tile roofs, and arches reminiscent of mission archways. Curved parapets, bell towers, and courtyard-centered layouts carried the theme further. Popular in warm, dry climates, Mission Revival was well suited to the southwestern states, where thick walls and shaded porches kept indoor spaces cool. Tudor Revival. A romantic glance back to medieval England, Tudor Revival played with half-timbering, steeply pitched roofs and large chimneys. Brick or stone lower floors contrasted with stucco and timber upper sections. Leaded glass windows, wooden beams, and ornate fireplaces completed the storybook feel. Particularly favored in the Northeast and Midwest, Tudor Revival offered a fairy tale twist on suburban living. Craftsman. Evolving from the British arts and crafts movement, the American Craftsman style stressed simplicity, handcrafted details, and natural materials. Low-pitched roofs with wide eaves, tapered porch columns, and visible rafters embodied its honest aesthetic. Interiors often included built-in cabinetry, inglenook fireplaces, and thoughtful woodwork. Bungalows gained enormous popularity nationwide, celebrating artistry in an increasingly industrial age. Prairie. Though short-lived as a formal movement, Prairie style forever influenced American design. Frank Lloyd Wright's emphasis on horizontal lines, low-pitched roofs, and open floor plans fostered harmony between house and landscape. Rows of casement windows and sheltered porches reinforced the sense of expansiveness. Abandoning excessive ornament, Prairie architects forged a distinctly American approach that anticipated modernist ideals. Mediterranean Revival. Combining Spanish, Italian, and Moorish motifs, Mediterranean Revival introduced red tile roofs, arched openings, and ornamental ironwork as hallmarks of coastal luxury. Courtyards and verandas blurred indoor-outdoor boundaries. Pastel and stucco exteriors brought sun-soaked charm, especially in glamorous locales like Miami or Beverly Hills, where the look of Mediterranean villas matched the lifestyle of leisure and resort living. Art Deco. Capturing the Roaring Twenties embrace of progress, Art Deco highlighted geometric shapes, stylized ornamentation, and materials like chrome or glass block. While most famously associated with skyscrapers, the style filtered into residential design, especially in places like Miami Beach. Rounded corners, bold color schemes, and zigzag or sunburst patterns created a streamlined, futuristic appearance that echoed machine-age optimism. International. Developed by European modernists like Le Corbusier and Mies van der Rohe, the International style prized functional purity, flat roofs, open floor plans, white surfaces, and the absence of ornament defined its minimalistic approach. Large expanses of glass and an emphasis on rectilinear forms gave these buildings a light, geometric clarity. Spreading globally, the style found a foothold in American cities, introducing a stark alternative to traditional decoration. Streamline Moderne. An offshoot of Art Deco's fascination with modernity, Streamline Moderne softened the sharp angles into sleek curves inspired by ocean liners. Ribbon windows, rounded corners, and horizontal banding suggested speed and efficiency. The style emerged during the Great Depression, balancing affordability with a hopeful nod toward a streamlined technological future, making it appealing for both private homes and public buildings. Hollywood Regency. Glamour ruled in Hollywood Regency, which merged simple modern silhouettes with over-the-top decorative elements. Mirrored panels, glossy finishes, and theatrical flourishes drew on Art Deco, neoclassical, and global styles. The result was unapologetically luxurious, often seen in the hills of Los Angeles, where film stars desired homes as dramatic as the silver screen sets that made them famous. Ranch. With post-World War II suburbia booming, ranch houses answered the demand for casual, family-friendly living. Single-story layouts, open interiors, and attached garages fit perfectly into the car-centric lifestyle. Large picture windows and sliding glass doors to patios encouraged indoor-outdoor flow. The long, low-slung profile spoke to the wide-open spaces of the American West, making the ranch style synonymous with mid-century suburban growth. Mid-century modern. Embracing minimal ornamentation and innovative materials, architects such as Richard Neutra helped define mid-century modern. Steel frames, massive glass panels, and open-concept interiors blurred the line between nature and shelter. Flat or gently pitched roofs completed the understated geometry. Popular in California and beyond, these homes captured the post-war optimism that saw technology as a path to better living. Brutalist. Contrasting with the airy openness of mid-century modern, Brutalist architecture prioritized raw concrete and monumental forms. Though more common in institutional buildings, occasional residential projects embodied an austere, fortress-like solidity. The style deliberately minimized ornament, arguing that a building's materials and structure should speak for themselves. Critics found it heavy and uninviting, but admirers praised its honesty and boldness. Postmodern. Pushing back against modernism's austere functionalism, postmodern architecture reintroduced historical references with playful irony. Classical columns, arches, and decorative details reappeared, but in unexpected ways or exaggerated proportions. Vivid colors and whimsical shapes invited complexity back into design. In residential settings, postmodern houses might sport a collage of styles or satirical riffs on tradition, balancing nostalgia with futuristic flair. McMansions. As suburbs continued to grow, large-scale homes that blended elements of colonial, Tudor, and Mediterranean gained traction. Dubbed McMansions, these often featured multi-gabled roofs, towering foyers, and expansive floor plans. Critics lamented their eclectic jumble of references and supersized footprints, but they appealed to buyers seeking space, status, and recognizable historic details. They became the go-to symbol of late 20th century suburban affluence. Modern farmhouse, merging barn-inspired features, whiteboard and batten siding, metal roofs, black-framed windows. With minimalist finishes, modern farmhouse rose to prominence in the era of Instagram and TV renovation shows. Reclaimed wood accents and farmhouse sinks evoke rustic charm, while open-concept layouts and sleek lighting keep it current. This style's widespread popularity shows that Americans still love reinventing their architectural heritage, blending comfort, nostalgia, and modern tastes. Saltbox. Dating back to colonial New England, the Saltbox has a steeply pitched roof that slopes down to a shorter rear, giving it a tall front and a low back. Early settlers used this shape to handle snowfall, and the asymmetry created extra interior space without adding a second floor. Saltboxes usually feature a central chimney, small windows, and simple wooden siding, reflecting their no-frills origins. Cape Cod. Another iconic New England style, the Cape Cod is a small, symmetrical house with a steep gabled roof and a central chimney. The front door often sits in the middle, flanked by evenly spaced windows. Traditional Cape Cods have shingle siding to handle harsh coastal weather. Interiors are cozy, mirroring the modest, efficient colonial spirit. Acadian. Primarily found in parts of Louisiana and Mississippi, Acadian houses trace their roots to French settlers adapting to subtropical climates. They often feature steep-pitched roofs to shed heavy rainfall, along with generous porches to catch breezes and provide shade. Simple rectangular layouts, raised foundations, and minimal exterior ornament reflect practical construction methods. The result is a humble, often charming home that fuses French heritage with Gulf Coast realities. Antebellum. Primarily found in the South before the Civil War, antebellum architecture includes large plantation houses with columns, balconies, and broad porches to tackle the heat. Interiors can be formal, with high ceilings and symmetrical layouts. These mansions typically display Greek Revival or Federal influences, framed by sweeping gardens and moss-draped oaks. Though grand, they carry a complicated historical context. Mill house. Built for textile or industrial workers from the late 19th into the early 20th century, mill houses are small, straightforward homes, usually found in rows or clusters near factories. Their designs focus on affordability and function, with basic rectangular footprints, steep roofs, and modest front porches where laborers could unwind after long shifts. Though unadorned, these residences shaped entire mill towns, creating tight-knit neighborhoods centered around local industry. Foursquare. Widespread in the early 1900s, the American Foursquare is known for its boxy shape, 2.5 stories, and a hipped roof topped by a central dormer. The wide front porch is supported by robust columns. Interiors have a straightforward 4-room layout per floor, blending practicality and Craftsman-inspired touches. The style spread rapidly thanks to pattern books and mail-order kits. Bungalow. An early 20th century favorite, the bungalow typically has a single story, or 1.5, a low-pitched roof, and a front porch with square or tapered columns. Interiors often feature built-ins and exposed beams, hinting at Craftsman roots. Found in Florida, California, and beyond, bungalows marry cozy scale with handcrafted charm, giving homeowners a small but character-rich home. Richardsonian Romanesque. Named after architect Henry Hobson Richardson, this late 19th century style emphasizes heavy stone walls, rounded arches, and robust towers or turrets. Windows and doorways often have deep, curved openings with carved details echoing medieval or classical motifs. More common in public buildings, a few residential examples exist for a dramatic, fortress-like presence. Townhouse. Though more a housing format than a style, townhouses or row homes line up side by side in dense urban environments, sharing walls. Brownstone fronts with raised stoops are typical in cities like New York or Boston, while brick row homes define neighborhoods in Philadelphia or Baltimore. Narrow footprints, multiple stories, and small back gardens or patios help save space without sacrificing comfort. Log cabin. Dating back to frontier days, log cabins use stacked logs with interlocking corners, steep roofs, and porches to repel bad weather and capture breezes. The Appalachian variety often has a single chimney and an optional dog trot passage through the middle. Modern log homes keep the rustic appeal but may add larger rooms and contemporary amenities. Pueblo Revival. Rooted in adobe construction, Pueblo Revival features thick stucco walls, rounded parapets, and projecting wooden beams known as vigas. Territorial style, a related form, has straighter edges and brick coping on parapets. Popular in New Mexico and the Southwest, these homes blend indigenous, Spanish, and Mexican influences, pairing earthy exteriors with sun-baked landscapes. Coastal. Found along shorelines, These houses elevate living areas to mitigate flooding and capture sea breezes. Architecture varies from stilted cottages in the Carolinas to Key West bungalows awash in bright colors. Broad porches, big windows, and an airy, often pastel palette define a relaxed, vacation-like vibe suited to salty, humid climates. Floridian. Blending Mediterranean Revival, Art Deco, and climate-specific features, Florida homes often feature stucco exteriors, tile roofs, and breezy layouts to catch ocean winds. Large screened porches or lanais help with insects and heat, while pastel hues keep the look light. Waterfront spots may have docks or palm-lined gardens for a casual, sunny lifestyle. Anglo-Caribbean. Common in coastal or tropical zones, Anglo-Caribbean houses mix British colonial forms, often symmetrical with pitched roofs, with Caribbean elements like shutters, wraparound porches, or bright pastel colors. Designed for heat and humidity, these homes pair airy interiors with shady verandas, resulting in a relaxed yet graceful style. Chateau. Drawing on French castle influences, the chateau style often features steep roofs, turrets, ornate stonework, and decorative flourishes reminiscent of European nobility. Facades may include carved detailing around windows and doors, while interiors highlight grand foyers, formal layouts, and a regal sense of space. This blend of old-world grandeur and American home building results in a romantic style that stands apart from more familiar revival forms. Dallas style. Not an official label, this term refers to large suburban homes in Texas that mix motifs from ranch, Tudor Revival, and Mediterranean. Brick or stone exteriors, half-timbered gables, and arched windows often appear. Interiors favor open-concept layouts and high ceilings for hot summers. The result is an eclectic Texan blend echoing a big is better philosophy. LA Dingbats. These mid-century apartment buildings in Los Angeles typically have a boxy upper floor supported by a carport beneath. Facade details might include starbursts or geometric tiles. Built quickly during LA's post-war boom, Dingbats are budget-friendly but visually distinct, epitomizing a kitschy SoCal aesthetic. Split level. A popular mid-century suburban layout, split levels divide living spaces across multiple half-floors joined by short staircases. Bedrooms might occupy the upper level, while a family room lies below. Large front windows highlight horizontal lines reminiscent of modernist influences. This design suits sloped lots and separates formal from casual living areas. Raised ranch. A variant on the ranch house, the raised ranch puts the main floor above a partially below-grade lower level. From the street, it appears as a single story atop an exposed foundation. Commonly, garages and bonus rooms fill the lower space. It preserves a low profile while adding extra square footage on modest footprints. MazPro. Linked to post-war suburbs, MazPro housing uses standardized designs for rapid construction and cost savings. Minimal Cape Cods, ranches, or split levels might be built in large quantities by developers. Although criticized for uniformity, these mass-produced homes allowed countless Americans to afford suburban living, epitomized by places like Levittown. Levittown, an iconic example of mass-produced housing, Levittown houses were built from the late 1940s to 1950s, offering simple Cape Cod or ranch plans for returning GIs and young families. Although plain, they symbolize post-war prosperity and the rise of the cookie-cutter neighborhood. Their impact on American suburbia is immense. Mobile. More a housing type than a style, mobile homes or manufactured homes are factory-built and transported to a site. Trailer parks group these homes for cost-effective living, often at the expense of design variety. Modern park models may include modern layouts, blending affordability with some measure of style. Neo-Mansard. Inspired by Second Empire, Neo-Mansard houses apply a mansard-like roof onto a rectangular structure, sometimes adding dormers. Common in 1960s to 1970s suburbs, they mimic a French flair on a budget, leading to quirky, semi-luxury outcomes. Decorative eaves and broad roofs add to the faux chateau ambiance. Usonian. Frank Lloyd Wright created Usonian homes as affordable, single-story houses for middle-class families, focusing on open plans, horizontal lines, and harmony with nature. Carports replaced garages to cut costs, and simpler materials kept them accessible. These designs influenced modern ranches and remain admired for their unity with the outdoors. Contemporary. Distinct from modern's historical movement, contemporary shifts with the latest tastes and technology. Designers often use open floor plans, innovative materials like reclaimed wood or steel, and large spans of glass. Sustainable features such as solar panels or green roofs appear frequently. Unlike modern, contemporary constantly evolves. Barndominium. A growing rural trend, barndominiums convert barns or barn-like metal shells into residences. Interiors can lean upscale or stay rustic, typically featuring open spaces, tall ceilings, and exposed rafters. They merge agricultural roots with modern amenities, appealing to those who like farmhouse aesthetics but want something bigger. Minimal traditional. Popular from the 1930s to the post-war years, minimal traditional homes are stripped-down, single-story dwellings that bridge the gap between earlier craftsman cottages and the later ranch. They usually feature simple rooflines, minimal or no eaves, small front porches, and limited ornament. Their compact footprints and understated design reflected the need for affordable housing during the Depression and early post-war era, while still providing a comfortable, practical layout for growing families. Storybook. Sometimes called fairy tale or Hansel and Gretel cottages, these whimsical homes appeared in the 1920s and 1930s. Steeply pitched roofs, crooked chimneys, wavy shingles, and uneven silhouettes give them a fantasy air. Found in certain Hollywood neighborhoods, they add a magical flair to everyday streets. Tiny. Less a historical style and more a modern choice, tiny homes adopt extremely compact footprints, sometimes under 400 square feet. Despite limited space, clever layouts and built-in furniture enable sleeping, cooking, and daily life. Some rest on trailers for mobility, catering to those seeking minimal living expenses, a smaller footprint, or simplified lifestyles. Shotgun. Found primarily in the South, especially in Louisiana, the shotgun house is narrow and rectangular, with rooms arranged in a straight line from the front door to the back. Some folklore claims a shotgun blast could travel from one end to the other without hitting a wall if all doors were aligned. Typically raised slightly above ground to handle flooding, these modest homes often have front porches for socializing and catching breezes. The style is simple and functional, but it remains culturally iconic in many southern neighborhoods. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, then watch the first part if you haven't already. I will post the link in the description. Also, be sure to like and subscribe.